Hello and welcome to UC Today. My name is Christian and today's session is exploring the enterprise challenges of managing emergency services. And joining me to tell me about it is Marc Haimsohn, VP of Sales and Partnership for the Americas at Kurmi. Marc, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Christian. Appreciate being here.
So let's start off. And what are the primary challenges enterprise face today when managing emergency services like E911 across complex and multi-vendor UC environments?
Yeah, I mean, it's especially around the multi-vendor environment. It's setting up E911 in multiple locations. You have to go to different systems. Oftentimes it's even different teams that are doing these setups. And it's just a very time-consuming process. And I think most critical is sort of the location data that needs to be included, where that data comes from, making sure it's accurate, making sure it's updated. Those are some of the challenges. And the more that can be automated, simplified, and centralized in how that information is inputted, I think is going to be better, and it'll make that data more accurate, more timely, and those are some of the challenges that we hear about around E911.
Excellent. You also mentioned about some of the challenges about visibility. I was wondering, how have these evolving compliance requirements, such as Kari's Law and Baum's Act, changed the way organizations approach emergency location management within their own communication infrastructure?
Yeah, I mean, good question. And to be fair, I'm no expert around that law and that act. But what we're hearing and what I'm sensing in the market is there is greater urgency to comply with those laws. Organizations are moving sometimes as quickly as they can, or generating momentum to comply with those laws. And it is a topic that we're hearing more and more as we're speaking to large enterprises, their desire to make sure they're in compliance with those requirements.
Excellent. Well, we talked about, this sort of fragmented kind of data that's often plaguing these organizations. We've talked about the new requirements that are perhaps asking more from organizations. I was wondering, in what way does centralizing E911 management alongside daily UC admin help organizations, reduce risk, streamline operations, and improve compliance?
Yeah, I think that there's a general desire in organizations to centralize and automate how they are setting up users in their organization, how they're obviously complying with E911 requirements. And the more you can centralize and automate it, the fewer errors that exist. The ability to audit data and make sure that it's accurate is critical. And really have one central team doing that rather than silos of teams inputting information, one to support a UC environment potentially, one to support E911 requirements, and then you have different groups that maybe be supporting contact center, to be able to bring all that together into a single team, and as required, delegate out to teams. It's just going to make that process much more streamlined, more accurate, and more centralized and controlled.
Okay, excellent. Well, bringing this back to Kurmi's solution. So how does Kurmi's integration with RedSky transform the day-to-day experience for IT and UC administrators?
So we hear about, and we ask a lot of customers, so what does your existing workflows and processes look like? How long do they take? What do you like about them? What don't you like about them? And we hear consistently setting up users in our traditional product for UC takes in excess of 30 minutes, oftentimes. So we are streamlining that process, either completely automating it, where it's just, there's no time taken whatsoever, or that process takes well under a minute. And so to be able to streamline that process, now inclusive of setting up RedSky users and E911 services is highly desired. Again, reducing errors is critical, but just streamlining that process, making sure it's accurate, and then all the changes that might need to take place over time, that process is also further streamlined. So, for organizations, it's just greater control, faster response times to their constituents that need these things set up, sometimes with new employees, sometimes existing employees. It's just kind of the world of automation is highly desirable for IT teams that are often overworked. So.
Excellent. Well, following on that theme of automation, as enterprises increasingly adopt hybrid and cloud communications, what role does automation play in ensuring accurate emergency location data and efficient user provisioning?
I'd say the big topic we hear maybe most often is the ability to have role-based access control. So oftentimes you have a central IT team, but they want to delegate some tasks to help desk or other IT teams. Oftentimes it's geographically based or otherwise. But the ability to let those teams do certain things, but not everything, and set up users, set up certain fields for users, but again, not everything. So allowing that sort of delegation to happen that's really precise and granular is critical for IT teams. And again, we're generally focused on the enterprise, and these bigger organizations have complex requirements, oftentimes either lots of branches, lots and lots of locations. So that working with these different IT teams and delegating tasks as appropriate is really critical for most of our larger enterprises.
You talked about the delegation of tasks and how it's critical for larger enterprises. I was wondering, could you explain how the Kurmi's platform enables this secure delegation of E911 management tasks to non-technical staff or even distributed teams? And why is this important to large organizations? I know you talked about people being spread out over different locations, but I was wondering if you could drill deeper into that.
Yeah, so we take it down to a very precise process where think of all the different provisioning elements of setting up a user or setting up a different device that might exist, or setting up the E911 services. We can set it up where you can literally item by item. So you can figure out exactly what you want to push off to different IT teams, what you want them to allow them to do, over what period of time. And so imagine an IT team that covers a particular city and or building within that city. You can allow them to set up specifically the users for that area geographically, and or you can set up exactly what capabilities you want them to set up. Maybe it's voicemail, maybe it's they're just setting up their phone number as a one-time, but you can't delete things, but you can enter things. So being really precise about what you allow different groups to do over what period of time and in what geographic location, it's really incredibly useful, and it really doesn't exist elsewhere in the market. So that's one of the things we hear over and over from our enterprises.
Okay, and well, looking forward, how do you see the integration of emergency services like RedSky and the broader UC automation evolving to meet the needs of enterprises with increasingly complex communications environments?
So we talked a lot about kind of centralizing management. So that's a really critical theme. It's evolving in organizations. So automating and centralizing that management across both UC and E911, and frankly, other UC domains that we cover. So we are looking to be able to support really a broad set of UC platforms and make sure those can be centrally managed. The other thing and again, I'm not an expert on the E911 front, but what I'm hearing is greater precision in location information. So of course we can support a city, a building, a floor level detail about location, but even getting more precise and knowing exactly where a user is on a floor in a building. Obviously that information needs to come from somewhere, But I think that sort of detailed location information is what will be added in the future, and we'll be able to pull that information into our platform when it's available.
Okay, excellent. Well, fascinating stuff, Marc. I think that would be a good place for us to leave it. All I can say is, Marc, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Christian. Appreciate your time.
And thank you to our audience for watching. As usual, if you like this, you can like and share. And don't forget to subscribe so you can stay in touch with all these fascinating conversations and more. Until next time, see you then.